Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe, CMO of Gamefound, and welcome to another Feast event. This is our largest feast yet, with 11 projects we're going to be talking about today, 11 games coming your way that you can be excited about, and I feel like every time I hop in front of the camera for one of these feast events, it's the new largest, the new biggest event that we've ever had before, but with 11 projects, this is, well, once again, the biggest feast event we've had until now. We have a lot of exciting things coming your way, from large video game IPs being adapted to board games, from reprint campaigns, from expansions or second editions. We have a ton of exciting projects for you. Over the course of the next half hour, we're going to be going through those projects one at a time, telling you what you can expect over the next, month, 3 months, 6 months, and year, and I encourage you to follow those projects whenever you have an opportunity to do so. Most, if not all, of these projects do have follower gifts, which means if you are in any way interested in the project, you may as well go ahead and click that follow button, and then you can go ahead and get that gift if you do choose to back the project. We're going to be going through these one at a time. We're going to start large. We're going to start large with one of those video game adaptations. We're going to end with one of the video game adaptations, and we're going to have a variety of things in the middle. So I encourage you, make sure to go ahead and watch through the entire thing because, well, there's a lot of exciting games coming your way. We're going to be starting off strong today with Valheim. Valheim is a hugely popular survival video game from Iron Gate Studios, and the board game is going to be brought to you by Mood Publishing, who's previously done Deep Rock Galactic, an incredibly well-received video game adaptation that has had 2 massive crowdfunding campaigns. I'm incredibly excited to see what Mood Publishing does with this game, especially given their track record with Deep Rock Galactic, and I'm intrigued to see how a survival game is going to be adapted to your table. Today, for first, we're actually going to be joined by both Mood Publishing as well as Iron Gate Studios to talk about their game. Join me now as we find out a bit more about the project. For Valheim, we're actually joined by Casper from Mood Publishing, the company behind the board game, as well as Eric from Iron Gate Studios, the company behind the video game side of things. Which is a treat for me, because I'm used to speaking to the board game side of things all the time, but I rarely get to talk to the actual video game companies behind all these video game adaptations. So, Eric, we briefly talked before the call. I know you mentioned you're into board games. For the rest of the office, what's the Iron Gate team like? Are they involved in board games, RPGs? What's their involvement in this sphere?
Yeah, I think that everyone at Iron Gate is pretty much a board gamer or playing role-playing games, and we're really excited for Valheim to be turned into a board game as well. I think that Mood is pretty much the perfect partner for us, and we have seen what they've done before, and we're really excited to see what they can make of the Valheim game.
Have you had a chance to play the game yet?
Yeah, we tried it a lot, the prototype, and we're thinking it's going to be really good.
And Casper, for your side of things, Mood has obviously already done Deep Rock Galactic, which means you've already had, experience in the space and bringing these video game IPs to life. How has that experience been in terms, how has their previous experience with video game IP adaptations been in terms of guiding or informing your experience with Valheim?
I think it's been really good. We've learned so much since we did that. I think the Deep Rock project was amazing. I think we learned that it's very much about trying to close actually a lot of doors. I think with Valheim, we have a game, an IP where there's so much to do, and there's so much fun in the universe that when you translate it into a board game, the exercise is to close a lot of those doors. I think with the Deep Rock experience, we've become better at doing so, and really note down also in collaboration with Eric and the other people at Iron Gate, what is it about at its core? What are the pillars of the game? What is fun? What is community favorites, and is it even possible to translate those into a board game? And sometimes it's not, and other times it works so well. So I think we've learned that it's very much a balance about, we want to bring a base game to life where it really just embraces the universe that Iron Gate has created. and with respect to everything it is, while being its own kind of product for that. And I think the Deep Rock experience really was a cornerstone for us to be really good at it.
And so as far as adapting Valheim, taking a survival game and adapting it to the tabletop, like what's a singular mechanic? No need to go too broad here, but what's a singular mechanic that you've moved over and how you've approached that?
I think one that we are very happy about, which we also discussed with Iron Gate as a core, is how players can choose a role without being locked into it from the very get-go. The Valheim players are really enjoying to, take on a specific role, whether you craft, you explore, you hunt. It can be many different things. I think what we've done well with the board game is that you do choose your character, you do choose some of the equipment, you can craft stuff, but you're not locked, so you can grow into a role. And I think in discussion with whoever you are playing with, or if you are playing alone, which will also be an option, I think it's about the option to be able to take on a role that you think fits you as a player, that you can have a ton of fun with playing, and at the same time have great synergy with those you play with, and have a good time playing. I don't know, Erik, if I'm missing anything there.
No, I think you choose the right one to talk about there.
Excellent. And then as far as the campaign itself, is there a follower gift on the campaign? We
will have a follower gift. I cannot reveal it here, but there will be a follower gift, and we're excited to reveal it once it's up and running. So yes.
Perfect. Casper, Erik, appreciate you joining us today, and I'm excited for the campaign.
Thank you so much.
Well, I hope you're as intrigued as I am by the potential that Valheim has. We've seen a lot of video game adaptations to board games, but I don't know if we've seen a survival one adapted yet, and I'm curious what that opens the doors for as far as other video games turned into board games within this genre, assuming, of course, it's received well. Now, our next project is not based on an actual video game, but it is based on a video game genre, and that's going to be Onward. Onward is actually a reimagined version of Skytier, which was a very popular MOBA-based board game based on the MOBA genre in video games, the massive online battle arena genre, and Skytier has been incredibly well received, but they're coming to you with a new, more accessible, more streamlined second edition of the game called Onward. Let's go ahead and find out more about what changes they bring to the table, although I should note before we dive into this little interview that Skytier Games actually has another campaign that just launched today, so if you want to check out another game in their Skytier universe, you can go ahead and check that out today, as well as joining me as we find out a bit more about what Onward brings to your table. Here with me to talk about Onward, we have Giacomo from Skytier Games. Giacomo, it's kind of a busy day for you, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. With the launch of the new crowdfunding campaign for Skytier Horde campaigns, yes, it's quite busy.
Yeah, so for those of you who missed it, Skytier Horde is launching today, so that's going to be, it's not actually the game we're here to talk about, but you do have Skytier Horde launching today. But here we're here today to talk about Onward, which from my understanding is the new version of the original Skytier. So I guess I have a few questions to go over, but starting off the bat, can you tell me a bit of some of the differences between Onward and Skytier?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the name, right? We changed the name because it's not just second edition. We prefer to start with a blank page and only keep the best, thousands of people liked. But we wanted to be free to change, add, and remove things as we see fit. So what I would say is the main change of the product is it's a lot more accessible than before. So we streamlined it quite a bit, trying to keep the soul and actually add even more features that remind of a MOBA. So I can get into the details if you want.
Please, some of the details. You don't have to figure out everything, but some of the mechanical changes or differences or whatnot.
Right, sure. So, the focus remain on 2 players, controlling multiple heroes at once, right? And the duration is still in around an hour, depending on the map you're gonna play. Another thing we kept from Skyter is the managing the wave of the minions across multiple lanes. We believe it's really important. It's really interesting with deep strategy implications. And so we definitely keep that. Another thing we kept is the miniatures. Like if you do have the miniatures from Skyter, painted or not, you can reuse them in Onward. And there will be also a pledge level with only the new miniatures, so that existing players don't have to end up with duplicates.
Gotcha. And you may have touched upon this a little bit already because you mentioned accessibility, but why the change? Why the change from Skyter to Onwards and all the mechanical name changes, all that?
Right. So, it began with what we wanted to add, right? And we wanted to add some stuff that wasn't in Skyter, like namely monsters and jungles and items, right? All these things, we wanted them in the game, but we had to remove something
elements
else.
and worlds from Skyter Horde?
Of course. We cannot help ourselves, right? We're making games all in the same universe. So, of course, you will find the monsters of Skyter Horde in the jungle with Onward. But we wanted to add these new things, right? But we wanted actually to simplify the game, not make it more complex or complicated. And so we had to remove some stuff. And so we got rid of deck building as a requirement to play, right? Before it was quite deck building. It was quite needed, but now you just draft your heroes, you already preset teams even, and you're ready to play. We got rid of a lot of rules because we got rid of X's. Now there are big areas, just a few big areas, and that simplify quite a few things. So you can focus more on card play, and the 3-lane map, for example, is something we really like now but again, we didn't want to bog down the game, right? The opposite. So we had to do these changes because we did want to add other stuff, like I mentioned, the items, like customizing the hero as you play to build it, or going into jungle to get farm monsters. So it became a 100% card-driven action system, so that's another simplification. You basically draw 2 cards and use one to move attack, and the other might be an ability that you use right away or after in the turn.
Excellent. Very cool.
So
for the campaign, do you have a follow gift?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the pack of very cool Ultimates promo pack. So yeah, for any follower. We also have what we call early access. It's a thing we're trying where we want players to play the game online if they want to, way before the campaign launches. So there should be a link on the page somewhere that leads you to a form where you can sign up and get to play the game Onward a month in advance if you want to.
Excellent. And then on a more, personal interest note, do you have more games planned in the Skyter universe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're not gonna stop. So we do have an RPG, for D&D 5th edition. That's will be coming out at the end of the year, most likely. And then we are working on a deck builder with a little bit of area control multiplayer. This one it's gonna be our first multiplayer title.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, and everyone, make sure to not only follow Onward, but also to make sure go ahead and check out Skyter Horde as well.
Thank you, Alex.
Personally speaking, I'm a huge fan of both Skyter and Skyter Hordes. Both vastly different games, but built in the same universe, and both offering you a huge amount of tactical options as you try to figure out your pathway forward in the game. And that does make me very excited for what Onward brings to the genre, how it iterates upon what Skyter has done so far. Now, our next project is not based on video games, at least not that I know of, and that's going to be Lands of Galzyr's Dreams and Mysteries, an expansion and reprint for the very popular Lands of Galzyr from Snowdale Design. Lands of Galzyr has players exploring in an open world, going on these adventures that both permanently impact the world around them, permanently impact their own characters in the space, with each adventure being isolated in terms of how it operates, so you have kind of this slice of the world that you're dealing with as you try to gain points in that little world, either playing it solo or cooperatively or competitively as you try to figure out your own pathway forward, but ultimately carving out a narrative branch and exploring these little slices of stories in this universe that will completely play out differently every single time you play it, even just through the very nature of the seasons that you go through as you travel this world, go on quests, interact with various characters, and just figure out your own adventure and place in this world. They're coming back to crowdfunding with an expansion and reprint. That's going to be Lands of Galzyr, Dreams and Mysteries, and it's going to be bringing you new content to the game. And join me as I talk to Sammy Lasko to find out a bit more about the campaign. Sammy, I'm excited to have you here today because I've played Lands of Galzyr, so I already know how the infrastructure, how the game operates, and I'm curious what you have planned for the Dreams and Mysteries expansion on this campaign. And I want to get into the expansion shortly, but I first have a few questions around the base game, or around more particularly the inspiration for it. Lands of Galzyr it's a fascinating game in the sense that it operates in this mini world where it's an evolving world. So the world is changing around you. As you go from session to session, there is a literal living world that is happening. Whether you play the game solo, competitively, whatever it is you're doing as you go through it, the world changes. The characters you adapt. Things happen. You meet people. New spots pop up on the board. It is a weird hybrid between a campaign game or a single shot. It's a little bit of both and not exactly either. What was the inspiration for this? Like, what brought you to this game design approach?
So, of course, everyone in the team had their own individual inspirations, but my personally were the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and from the board games Seventh Continent. We didn't want to do anything identical to those, but we wanted to evoke an open world feeling where you can have a world in a box that you effortlessly take on the table. You delve in, immerse yourself for a little while, put it back, and then do it again whenever you feel like it.
Excellent. I've played both of those, so that makes sense. So from both those make sense. Both those are very much living worlds and two different approaches, which I guess brings us to the expansion for Dreams and Mysteries. What's the approach to the expansion? What things are being added, changed, tweaked, adjusted? Like, what does this expansion represent to those following, to those interested in the game?
Yeah, the base game had a lot of going on in it. It was hard to make because we had to make the open world experience, and that included a huge pile of specific kind of stories. So that was like the base groundwork. And now that being done, we can make the game richer and deeper with the expansion. We have asked community on Discord, Board Game Geek, and we had also a specific a survey sent to the fans of the game, and we had over 400 replies to that. And based on those, we are doing the expansion for the fans. So we are trying to find what really makes the game tick for those who already like it, and then build on top of that. Some of the key takeaways are, for example, a longer spanning stories. There was a reason we didn't include those too much in the base game, but that's something that people have really liked, including you in your review, and we are going to try to include those in the expansion in the form of longer character stories, as well as more of those overarching stories that happen on the background. And that's, of course, in addition to a new adventure that will be part of the expansion.
Oh, very fun. Very cool. Well, I'm excited to see this one. Again, I've played this one. I've enjoyed this. It has a living world. And not many games that I can think of can really claim to feel like a living world without also being a campaign game. Usually they go hand in hand. There's a handful of games that manage to capture this feeling, and I think Lands of Galzyr is one of them. So I'm excited for the campaign. For those following, make sure to stay tuned. I believe, Sammy, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also going to be the ability to buy the base game as well, I assume?
Yes, while the base game is available right now, those who want to get everything at once, we will offer a bundle for all of that in the campaign as well.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for your time, Sammy. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex.
While Lands of Galzyr seeks to expand upon its storytelling adventure, our next campaign is a game in a similar genre, but taking a very different approach, coming back after 10 years to completely reimagine what this game looks like. This is going to be Above and Below Haunted from Red Raven Games. Above and Below launched 10 years ago, and I believe for a long time was their most successful game until Sleeping Gods came along and took that title from it. But Above and Below has players seeking to build the best villages both above and below ground while exploring the stories that the game gives you. And Above and Below Haunted takes that, puts on a slightly new twist and theme to the game while adding and shifting up mechanics as well. Join me as I talk to Ryan Lockett from Red Raven Games about this title and what they're doing with the series. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today. With Above and Below Haunted being your third campaign on Gamefound, following Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, Creature Caravans, and now this one over here, I have a bunch of questions to get into, but I think starting off simple and easy, what are the main changes between this and Above and Below? What are the main adjustments, tweaks, add-ons, or things that make this a different experience?
Yeah, so they are really similar. You'll be doing the same thing where you're building up a village, you're getting villagers, building buildings, and then exploring the caves below ground and reading a storybook. There are some new cool things, like now there are ghosts. It takes place in a haunted marshland, and so it's a new setting. There's like totally new stories, and now you can get ghosts. So ghosts they can haunt your buildings. And the more ghosts you have, it hurts your reputation. But there is a new action. You can banish the ghosts and send them actually to other players' buildings. So there's a little more player interaction this time. But depending on where you send them to the other players, you'll get rewards for that. So that's kind of the big thing. But there's like a whole bunch of other little changes too.
Are you primarily targeting this to people who haven't had a chance to explore that universe, to existing players, a little bit of both?
I think it's both. Like, I totally expect, people have been asking us to revisit Above and Below or to do more with Above and Below over the years, and so this was kind of our chance. We planned it to release on the 10th anniversary of the original game. So, I've always wanted to, and over the years I've made like so many prototypes and tried many different things with Above and Below, but never like really, went too far with it. But this time it just like clicked, and so I was really excited about it. But I think new players can totally get into this without playing Above and Below. This is like a great place to start. They're only connected mechanically and like thematically, but you don't have to play one before the other. The one thing that connects the two is that you can use the villagers from the original game in the new game, in Above and Below Haunted. And like if you have Near and Far, any of the other Arzium games, like you can use those villagers as well in Haunted. So
Gotcha. Which you might have partially answered my next question, which is why this game? Like, why now? I think you've done City of Iron, a second edition. I know that you always had Sleeping Gods Distant Skies 2, which sequel or redone. It's always an interesting line. Is it something a sequel or is it a redone version? But I don't know fully how many. I don't think you've had a ton of games you've done a second version of. Why Above and Below? Like, why? I mean, I'd say why now too, but 10th anniversary seems like a good answer. But what pulled you towards trying to reapproach this one?
I think it's that, it's been one of our most popular games. I hear often from people that it's like the game that brought them into the hobby, or that was the game that got their family to play board games. And so, it's always had kind of a special place for me, and I've always wanted to revisit it, but I also felt like I didn't want to just write a new book for the original one. I felt like I had explored that location enough, if that makes sense. I wanted like a new place where I could tell new stories. So that was a big reason why I wanted to do that. So, and part of it too is like, I often sketch out like game design ideas in a notebook. And this time, this one like really clicked, like the idea of a haunted marshland, and kind of, people are building stilt houses in the game. And it just like, the setting really spoke to me.
Do you have plans for other games in your universes to have a new version?
Yeah, I'm sure, Near and Far is another one that we'll probably revisit sometime in the future. The expansion for Near and Far says expansion 1. So it's like, yeah, there's going to be a second one someday.
Very cool. And I guess on a more personal note, between yourself and your wife, you have such a sheer amount of skill between the illustration, between the music, between the game design, even just running a company, which is a whole skill set unto itself. Like, how did that all come together to where you are now, creating board games? Like, I don't even understand. Like, I assume you didn't learn how to paint for board games. I have no idea. I should say draw, not paint. But I assume you didn't, like, all these things. Like, how did it all come together?
It's always been a hobby, like, even since I was a kid. And it was always, like, doing the art and designing the game at the same time. So like even from age 12, and I was constantly designing games, and I feel like I sort of trained myself to do it. I'm like, I want to train myself in game design, train myself in art, because they were always connected. I would rarely do art that wasn't for a game. And so that kind of just built up over the years, and that was like my dream job. I'm like, please, I got to figure out a way to make this work. And it finally did work. But yeah, learning new things, constantly learning new things, like running a business for sure. That's been a learning experience constantly.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate your time, Ryan. Going into it. For those also, I'd say for those who want a longer, I mean, if you have a chance, check out the full movie, Crafting Arzium, which fully goes into a whole backstory of, well, all this stuff in terms of your background, your wife's background, the company, and all of that. But at least right now, thanks so much for joining us, and I'm looking forward to the campaign.
Yeah, thank you.
While Above and Below has you focused on building up villages, our next campaign has you focused on, well, trying to maintain them as much as possible when disaster strikes. Pest is coming to Gamefound with a reprint and expansion, the Guilds of Thakaya. And Pest is a game which focuses on plague sweeping the nation, and it's up to you to wander around and try to mitigate and manage that as much as possible, trying to work towards your own goals in the game while trying to save as many people as you go. Pest features an innovative action selection mechanism where you're going to be doing a bit of worker placement as you place tokens down on an intersection, choosing the actions that focus on the intersection of where you place your tokens down, forcing you to choose two things at once, but which two will define how you work forward in the game. Guilds of Thakaya is going to be an expansion. Well, this campaign is going to have a reprint and expansion with Guilds of Thakaya, and join me as I find out a bit more about what this expansion brings to the table. Milan, I appreciate you joining us today. For Pest, you're doing a second edition plus expansion. For the expansions for this game, what's the approach you're taking to the expansion?
Okay, so the expansion adds a few more layers to the base game. Upon feedback from the players, we received about for the base game. We wanted to add a few more layers of difficulty maybe to the game. So we have a whole new plague system that is included in the expansion, which makes it a bit tougher, to manage all those sick people on the board. Then we have the guild mechanism and guild mechanic in the game, which adds new cards, new abilities, and interesting ways to play the game.
Perfect. And these modular?
Yes, these are modular. Yes, and we plan a bit more stuff to include in the expansion. So these are just roughly the main things in the expansion.
Gotcha. So check out the campaign for more and all that. As far as the second edition part, so I know you're doing a second edition as well. Is there going to be an upgrade kit for the first edition?
Yes. So we're doing a second edition, and again, upon the received feedback we got from the players of the game, which by the way we appreciate a lot. We decided since we are going to do a reprint and a new expansion, we decided why not just make the game even better. So we did a bit development in our studio, and we are really satisfied with these results. So I think that the players are going to like the changes that we are going to have in the second edition. And yes, we're going to include an upgrade pack for the people that already have the first edition. So yeah.
Perfect. And for a lot of your games, I've noticed for a lot of your games in Arcona's catalog, you generally do support them for a while. You'll have the base game, the expansions. Is there more plans for Pest as well, or is this kind of where it taps out?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of ideas, a lot of cool ideas for the game, and what we also want, to also, we also love world building. So I think that Pest has a lot of, thematic potential in the game. And we also do have another game that is kind of set in that Pest world. So we do want to, continue supporting even Pest with maybe, new content as time passes. But for now, we're focused on this expansion. And yeah, as you said, we do this for a lot of our games. We have done upgrade packs for other games as well that we found necessarily. So yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Well, looking forward to the campaign, and thanks for joining us for the call.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you too.
Now that you're done dealing with the destructive effects of the plague, it's time to lay your claim to fame. It's time to make your mark on history by building the most deluxe and ornate towers in the city. Our next title is a game that's been out of print since 2010. It's a 2010 title designed by Michael Kisling and Wolfgang Kramer, and this is Assara. Assara is a game that Hasbro is bringing back to life, deluxifying the art, the presentation, and more importantly, bringing you 2 expansions that were never before produced in English, so you can have access not just to this game, but to these expansions that you may never have been able to get before. Join me as I talk to Olga from Hasbro about what more we can expect from this campaign. Joining me today to talk about Assara, we have Olga from Avalon Hill. Olga, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. For Assara, the biggest thing I'm curious about is why this game? Why now? Like, this has been out of print for so long. What prompted you to bring this game back?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Avalon Hill, we're passionate about reviving fantastic games that have been out of circulation. And we want to bring them back to the forefront of the gaming community. And when we had the opportunity to bring back Assara, we had to jump on it. Not only is it a standout worker placement game, but it's also a past Spiel des Jahres nominee, and it's designed by the legendary Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. We want to bring this back with stunning new artwork, improved components, and a fresh new setting, not only to attract new players, but also to give longtime fans something new to love.
Beautiful. And speaking of all the updates or refreshing and all that, how are the rules? Is it the same game mechanically, or are the changes there too?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mechanically, it's the same Assara that you know and love, but everything else has been dialed up. We've got incredible new artwork by Denny Schlitz, David Barden, and Charlie Layton, and we've upgraded the components with a vibrant new setting that really makes the game pop visually and thematically. So it's the same great game, but with a fresh coat of paint and some nice new perks.
Perfect. And as far as the campaign, what can we expect from that?
Yeah, we're going to be offering 2 tiers, the base game and a premium edition. The base game is fully loaded for a complete Assara experience. And the premium edition, on the other hand, is going to step it up with 2 expansions that were never released in English, offering different ways to play, and will also feature premium components and finishes.
Gotcha. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Before we go, anything else we should know?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some big news to share. So we are going to be taking Assara prototypes to Gen Con, August 1st through the 4th in Indianapolis, Indiana. So if you're going to be attending the show, make sure to come check out Assara in our display cases. And today, we're going to be adding play sessions at the Gen Con registration. So don't miss out on your chance to play Assara and register before all the slots are taken.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I appreciate the time, Olga. I'm looking forward to the campaign.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
I could only keep the city building theme going for so long, and our next game is going to be a large divergent from that theme. Our next game is going to be Harakiri Blades of Honor, or more specifically the expansion Souls of Yomi. Harakiri Blades of Honor from Synerjet Games is going to be a game that's going to give you a large adventure, but also a degree of dungeon crawling. It's going to have 2 phases to the game. One, a bit of an overland phase as you go on these quests, these adventures, interact with the overall board state itself, but then you'll also be diving into these individual dungeon crawl segments where you go on a bit more of a skirmish interaction back and forth as you wield your characters, upgrade their abilities as you go against the enemies and bosses in the game. Let's go ahead and find out more about what Souls of Yomi is going to bring as an expansion to this game. Joining me to talk about Harakiri Souls of Yomi, we have Joel from Synerjet Games. Joel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for having us here.
Now, so I've played the original Blades of Honor, the Harakiri. I've seen the updates, the unboxings, all the production stuff. Like, where are you with delivery?
Right now, delivery is undergoing, and games will start getting to their owners soon enough, something that we are really, really excited about.
Perfect. And then as far as the campaign, it's an expansion, it's a reprint and expansion, but what does the expansion add? What does it add to the game?
Yeah, we will just continue with the structure that we have been using with Harakiri Blades of Honor, having these adventure phases, exploring a map. In this case, will be the Yomi, the underworld, with new mechanics, new movement, new enemies, new missions, obviously, and also including the exploration phase, more dungeon crawler, with new characters that were some part of the story of the first game, and now will be playable characters, new enemies, mechanics, and things that we are really thrilled to be able to share during updates that we will be doing before the campaign launches.
Gotcha. And then there's 2 more questions. First of all, as far as the follower gift, do you have any follower gift for the campaign?
Yes, in fact, we have one follow gift for will be like the typical before the campaign will be a set of cards, some legendary gear, and also during the campaign, the same way as we did during our first project, we will be offering a free expansion for those who back the project, including even like the Enma, which is the Lord of the Underworld, in a stunning miniature that we will be also including for free for those who back us during the campaign.
Perfect. And then when is the campaign?
So we are aiming for a Q4 launch, and this is because we still want we want everyone to be able to receive their pledges, enjoy the game, and spread the word if they feel like to it. And so people will get time enough to play the game and see if they want to back us in our this expansion, which will be the conclusion of the story, and also because our first project and this upcoming project, this is crowdfunding exclusive. We want everyone to know in advance that they will be able to get this game in an upcoming campaign, even if it's in some months' time.
Gotcha. And then lastly, on a slightly, I know I said two more questions, but on a personal note, which phase of the game do you personally prefer, the exploration or the adventure?
I have to say that I've been more focused on the exploration phase because it's more like the usual tactics, skirmish, probably deeper. But I think that most people are really, really loving the adventure phase, which is adds more to the story, and all the people that's giving us feedback. They're saying that this fusion of both of them are like something like kind of new that they are really enjoying. So this is why we are bringing both of them back with this final expansion.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time, Joel. And to everyone, we'll have links to all the campaigns. Make sure to go ahead and follow them.
Thanks to you.
Now, if the combat and fighting of Harakiri sounds exciting to you, but you don't know if you need that entire overland adventure, then our next game might be perfect for you. It's going to be Rumble Planet from Ankama Games, and it's going to be a deluxe, beautiful-looking skirmish game that focuses purely on the head-to-head combat as you go through an hour-long experience of just having your fighters destroy their fighters with, well, a whole lot of goodies in it. Now, I don't know a lot about this game. I've seen the art, I've seen the photos, everything looks amazing, but I don't know enough about it yet. And so let's go ahead and talk to Roma from Ankama Games and find out more about this one together. Roma, thanks for joining us today. I've seen the page for Rumble Planet, I've seen the game, the miniatures, the art, I've seen all of it, and it looks amazing. But as far as the gameplay goes, I know very little about how this one plays. Can you give us a bit of information about how the game works?
Yeah, sure. So it's a skirmish game. It's a really quick game where there's no player elimination. We wanted to focus on that so there's no frustration on the player's end. And as you may have seen on the lore of the game, the golf has gone off-rail in the far, far future, and now you have to put 18 holes in your adversary face. So the aim of the game is to gain 18 points of glory, and to achieve that, you will have to kick your opponent's butt. It's a turn-based skirmish game.
Okay.
You have equipment that you loot almost every turn. There will be tons of loot, and the equipment cards will be. So sorry, you'll be able to craft your cards and to put two cards together to make a new weapon with new effects. And the other thing is that each turn your equipment will worn out, and after a set number of turns, you will lose the equipment you have, and you have to loot again. And so each turn you have to loot new equipment, craft it, and take the better of what you have to try and gain
Interesting.
the most points. And
So a strong focus on variable weapons and constantly going through them, almost a little bit like Borderlands.
yeah, a bit like that, because you loot and you shoot
Very cool.
each turn.
Very cool. How long is a typical game?
Well, it takes about 60 minutes for a game for 5 players, yeah, but it depends on the player types, you know.
Gotcha. Now, as far as Ankama's catalog, you guys have a lot of games that are all, I mean, they feel to a certain extent, besides that they look beautiful, but they feel a little bit all over the place. From, like, you have Monster Slaughter, through, what's it called, Arcase, you have Draftosaurus. How do you see this one fitting into your catalog? What's the overall, I guess, approach to the way you guys produce games?
Well, we try to explore lots of things, and really we work by we say it coup de cœur in France. So if we like a project, we have a good relationship with the author, maybe we'll get a shot. But we always try to focus on the lore, on the universe. Even on a skirmish game like Rumble Planet, we try to develop a rich lore for players to get involved in, and we also work on the art quite a bit to really to focus on this type of qualities. But we want accessible games for everyone. We are not making a super expert game, you know.
Yeah.
So we make games for players, but not for super hardcore. We want the experience to be contained, you know.
Beautiful.
So maybe that's that, yeah.
And then for
The
the
lore
campaign,
and the content experience.
for the campaign, do you have a follower gift?
Yeah, sure. We have a little booster of 10 cards, 10 equipment cards, armors and weapons. That came from all our other IPs, as you talked about. So maybe we will have a chainsaw Kopesh from Arceus, or a magical sword from Wakfu, or things like that.
Very cool. What do you have from Draftosaurus?
Well, we'll try to fit some dinos in the game, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you joining us today. I'm looking forward to the campaign. Everything looks absolutely beautiful. Like I mentioned already, like one thing that has been consistent across everything I've ever seen from Ankama is the art and the production look absolutely amazing, and that seems to hold true for Rumble Planet as well. So very excited, and good luck on the campaign.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Now, if direct ongoing fighting for an hour sounds like too much for you, a little bit too chaotic, a little bit too extreme, if you want something a bit more political, a bit more with almost a tense underlying potential for combat, but where combat itself may never manifest, then Cassis Belli might be for you. This is coming to you from Wallace Designs, and it's the fourth game in a kind of system, starting with A Few Acres of Snow, then Mythopia, then A Handful of Stars. We now have Cassis Belli being built on the same infrastructure and system, while being a very different beast in its own right. But I'll let Martin Wallace himself, designer of the game, designer of the #1 game ever on Board Game Geek, I'll let him tell you a bit more about what Cassis Belli might be and how it might be a fit for you. Joining me today to talk about Cassis Belli, I have Martin Wallace himself, owner of Wallace Designs, designer of the game. Martin, I'm coming in a little blind on this one. I know it's kind of loosely inspired by some of your previous games, but can you tell us a little bit about Cassis Belli and how the game plays, or what the main gist of it is?
Yeah, hi Alex. Good to see you. Yeah, the reason you're flying blind is because this game didn't exist until a couple of months ago. I mean, literally, I started working on it in mid-March. So you are actually the first person media person that we've ever spoken to about this game. The game's a deck building game with a space theme. So it's a space 4X game. And so it kind of follows the family of Mythopia, A Few Acres of Snow, and A Handful of Stars. But it goes in a radically different direction. Okay. So what I wanted to do with this game is actually take a leaf out of Awakened Realms book, and I wanted to do a game where you could recognize certain sci-fi IPs, but not to the degree where you can get sued. And that is the game. So yes, you have elements of Star Trek in there, Star Wars, Babylon 5, Alien, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Who. There's all these references within the games to these well-known IPs, but hopefully done in a way where we're not going to be chased by Warner Brothers or Disney Plus or whatever. So yeah, that's the core of the game. It plays from 1 to 4 players, although we haven't developed the solo rules yet. Okay. And the big thing in the game is it's weird in that it's a 4X game, and you can't fight. You can't attack each other.
You're going to have some people challenging you on one of those X's there.
Yeah, it's like, well, hold on a moment. Isn't it just meant to be a big fun fight? It's like, well, yes and no, in that it's trying to model reality. It's trying to model our present day reality. And it's like, America and Britain don't fight. America's not invaded. Well, unless Trump gets in, maybe they will. I don't know. That's political. Moving on. But there's clearly the good guys, who's like, the Stellar Alliance and the Hellenic Union, who are the good guys, and then you have this merchant faction, who they can go either way. And then you have the bad guys, and they're clearly evil. They're clearly based on the Klingon stroke evil empire from Star Wars and any other bad you want to think. Now they can fight, but only if they play a Cassis Belli card, hence the name of the game. So what you have at the beginning of the game, because you have a period of peace, you have this thing where players are expanding, they're colonizing planets, although the good guys cannot colonize planets that are already civilized because they're good guys. Okay? They can get alliances with them. They can say, hey, why don't you join our alliance, and then we'll protect you if bad stuff happens to you. But the good guys can't, well, they don't get points for doing this stuff, okay? Because what people score points for depends on who they are. Whereas the bad guys, they love invading these worlds. That's where they get their points from. So they want to stomp on people and they want to suppress people. You know, they enjoy it. So
a highly asymmetric deck building 4X game.
Massively asymmetric, massively. And as I say, just we're probably running out of time, but yeah. So you start off in the period of peace, but war can break out, and then if war breaks out, the players split into alliances. So, you know, the good guys will always be on the same side. The merchants will join one side or another, depending on their level of corruption. And the bad guys will always be on the other side. So, so yes, so you've got this. So you don't know at the beginning of the game if war's going to kick off.
Is it possible to have a whole game without war?
Yeah, it's absolutely possible. What you have though, creating issues are events, and the events can really mess things up. So you can get these invasions by these Borg-like creatures. You can get space kraken turning up. Planet systems can disappear altogether. You can get holy wars breaking out, all sorts of stuff, which you have to deal with. But I'm also quite proud that it's probably the only game that I know of, because, as I say, because it references all these well-known IPs, that the Evil Empire do have a mobile armored starbase, and they can blow systems up. And it's just like, yeah, it's just so satisfying to like move your Death Star into a system and just blow the whole thing up. Tends to be an act of petulance normally in the game, but yeah, it's got all of those stories. And I mean, every time I've played the game, it's told a different story. I've never had the same game twice, and it's just incredible what stories get told by the game. So yeah, even if you don't win the game, it's like, you know, you still have a hell of a lot of fun just seeing whatever story unfolds during the course of the game.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I've been a fan of most of your designs for years now, and so, I mean, deck building, 4X, asymmetric, all those things are just solid words to begin with, and combined with coming from yourself, I'm very much looking forward to this one.
Yep.
Very cool.
That's great.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here, and looking forward to the campaign.
Cheers.
If the tension of Cassis Belli seems right to you, but you want, well, tension of a different sort, then Terrascape Putrefied Enmity might be perfect for you. This is an expansion to Terrascape, and yes, it's a reprint campaign as well. And Terrascape, if you don't know it, is a one versus many game in which one player plays as the killer, trying to hunt down the, let's call them potential survivors in the game. You're going to have a gigantic 3D mansion in the game, you're going to have different killers, different survivors, you're going to have different maps you can play on, all giving you this layers of tension as one player tries to figure out how to take down the others, as players try to figure out where they all are, who's hiding from who, as they utilize their unique abilities to try to get one over the other and, well, either kill or survive in the game. Let's go ahead and find out more about what the expansion adds to this recent hit. To talk about the Terrascape expansion, I have with me Jeffrey from IceMake. Jeffrey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, great. Great to be here.
So for the expansion in general, what is it adding to the game? Is it just adding more characters, more bosses? Like, what is the expansion bringing to Terrascape?
We're gonna have a new map, 3 new survivors, and also, of course, a new killer. So it adds like a new story to the Terrascape franchise, and each player could have the combination like a previous map with new killer, new survivors with the previous killer. The chemical between them will be a lot more.
Perfect. And Terrascape in general, by the way, Terrascape has such a huge table presence. Like, this is a game that, like, there's so many one versus many games out there, and they all do different things. They all have their little levers of, like, how they operate. Terrascape's great in that sense. But something that really makes the game stand out is that giant thing in the middle, the giant mansion in the middle that really gives it a... You see that game being played at any convention, it pulls you in. Like, what was the inspiration for that? What made you want to take that approach to the game?
Actually, in the early stage of development, we have a lot of information. We'll put it beside of the screen between the players so they could see it. But we found that the information are too much, like the status of the survivors, the level counters for the killers, lots of that kind of things. Finally, we think of maybe we could combine it with the screen. We have a lot of screen out there with different type of hidden movement game. If we could have something new on this, then it will be a great features of Terrascape. And finally, think of the mansion house, and we put the survivor status onto the top of the mansion house, and we think it's a very great one. And later we combine the dice tower into the screen. And finally, we have the design right now. And yeah, a lot of people like it, and we also like it a lot.
It's very striking. It worked. It worked well for the job. Although, speaking of design inspiration, Ice Space has been fascinating in the sense that you've had like small box games like Age of Galaxy, Age of Civilization, but then you've also had these big box games like Terrascape and Epoch. Like, what's your overall design approach, or what are your plans? Are you planning on going back to small box games? Like, I often see companies focus on kind of one or the other, and so far you've been doing both very well.
Yeah, we will also work on some small box game in the very soon future. But we will also work on big box. We know that it's quite risky in terms of marketing, but I would say we love different type of games. So we also love to create them. Like, we love to have some small box strategy game that could give you a great experience for a type of theme, a type of story. But we also would like to introduce something that will need a bigger presence, like Terrascape, like Epochs. So I think nothing could stop us. We'll still try to challenge ourselves to create different type of games for everyone to enjoy.
Beautiful. And then as far as the campaign, is there a follower gift?
Yeah, sure. We'll have a gift.
Perfect. Well, Jeffrey, thanks for joining us. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, if you haven't yet seen Terrascape set up, it's one of those games that just seeing it makes you want it because of the beautiful way the game looks on the table, the sheer cinematic presence it has. Although that's actually a great segue to our last campaign. I told you we started with a video game adaptation, and we are ending with a video game adaptation, and it's going to be Heroes of Might and Magic 3, a reprint campaign with 3 new expansions. This is based on the video game from Ubisoft. It's coming to you from Arcan Games, and it's a game that looks beautiful on the table, but from what I've seen, I haven't had a chance to play this one myself yet, but from what I've seen of the reception so far, it has been incredibly well received, giving you both a beautiful looking and good playing game as well. Let's go ahead and talk to Arcan Games and find out more about what these expansions add to this game. Yarrick, I appreciate you joining us today. The Heroes of Might and Magic reprint and expansions. I believe you're bringing 3 expansions to the table today, correct?
Oh, that's correct. We're bringing Stronghold, Cove, and Conflux.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what each expansion adds to the Heroes of Might and Magic experience?
Well, first of all, this is the 2 missing expansions we couldn't make it during the normal campaign, which is added in, which is the Stronghold and the Conflux. And the third one, which is absolutely special expansion, because it's made of the fun expansion for the video game, which was called Horn of the Abyss. So it was initiated by the Ubisoft. Ubisoft decided to made it much more official and added into the official canon. And through that, we got in touch with creators of the Horn of the Abyss and combined forces with Ubisoft to implement that one into official canon and create this one expansion. So each of the expansion brings new miniatures, new models, new rules, new towns, and a lot of more. But I think we have to leave it that one for the campaign to fans to find out.
Very interesting. Yeah, very cool. It's the campaign in general. Like I've seen both the initial campaign did incredibly well, but I've also seen since it's delivered that the reception has been very, very positive. Like how is your feeling or the office's feeling? How has it been around the game?
Oh, I'm gonna be quite frank. I was only the one in the office which underestimated these projects. Like we didn't expect it. I didn't expect a huge how it's gonna blow in terms of success. Definitely, it's something which we going to be focusing for the next years to come, and especially with the live service. So this is what we plan for the next year. So this year we plan to do the campaign. The next year we plan to do more live service for the next 3 to 4 years with the game. So something to be definitely be kind of passionate about it. Yeah. So that's that. We have a few huge fans of Heroes here in our office, which they all over the moon actually working with this IP, and they want to do more and more and more. And maybe, just maybe next year we're going to have something really special as well. We'll see how it goes.
Interesting. And you guys in general have had a lot of different types of campaigns. You've had Wolfenstein, you've had Master of the Universe, you have Heroes of Might and Magic, amongst many other games. But you also have an entirely different side of the business. The entire Dungeons and Lasers, campaign after campaign, focusing very heavily on terrain, on miniatures. What's it like juggling those two kind of different sides of things, the very terrain and miniatures, and then the board games?
Okay, so dungeon lasers and in general manufacturing and plastic injection and models, this is our bread and butter. So this is the core of the business. The board games actually are side projects to us, although they are at a good value. But still, D&D is the core. And we managed to have a great success with it because we manufacture that one in-house. As you can see, we just moved into the new office and the new manufacturing facility, and soon we're going to be publishing some videos about how exactly the miniatures are being made. But in general, that's our core, and that's what that's what the main focus of the company is. And then second team is dedicated just for the board games. And yes, we do the IP board games as well, as you mentioned. We have a good number of more IP board games in the pipeline for the next couple of years to be released. Yeah.
Well, very excited to see or hear more about those as they come up. For the campaign itself, do you have a follower gift?
Yes, we do have a follower gift. It's amazing. It's really good. It's really something the team was trying to hide it from me. They didn't want it to show me. They wanted to just make it surprise. But I was just picking on the screen of one of our graphical team member, and I saw it, and it's amazing stuff. Really, really great stuff. Really, which it's fully. You can feel it's a full dedication to the fans.
Excellent. Well, looking forward to the campaign. Good luck on that, and excited to see how things go.
Okay, dokie. Thank you very much.
And with that, another Feast event comes to a close. 11 campaigns, 11 games, our largest Feast event yet. And I can tell you from this side of the table that that's not the way these things are planned. The Feast events are designed to showcase games that we're excited about. At Gamefound, we are gamers first and foremost, and we see these projects that we're excited about, and we think that some of you will be too, and so we start putting these together. A few times a year, we do these Feast events, and then as we're slowly preparing them, another game shows up that we're excited about, and we want to share that too, and that happens again and again until eventually we have to finally say enough is enough. This is getting too large, and every one of these seems to be larger than the last. Now, the good news is not all of these games will be right for every single one of you, and that's good for your wallet, for your budget, because it would be too many. But there are probably a few games that did speak to you. Throughout the course of this video, throughout these interviews, there probably was that game, that video game adaptation of a title you love, that reprint and expansion that you weren't able to get your hands on the first campaign, but now you have the opportunity to do so and get more too. There's something, whether old or new, that will speak to every single one of you, and I hope this Feast event helped get you there, helped show you what might be the upcoming games and campaigns that you're excited about as we continue through 2024. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call a wrap to the June 2024 Gamefound Feast. Until next time, I'm Alex Ratcliffe, CMO of Gamefound, and I hope you enjoyed this event.